Hey everybody, Jill Fraser here, and I'm going to continue with my golf lesson series. So we're going to golf lesson number 5. We've done pretty well all the basics, and now we're heading towards pitching. So, what exactly is the pitch shot? The pitch shot is a shot that you use near the green that requires, when you need to require a ball that carries more than halfway to the hole. If you recall earlier, the chip shot was when you could land a third of the way and roll 2/3. But there are times where you need to land closer to the hole, and that's where the pitch shot comes into play. So the pitchers normally, if you take a look at this photo, you will see that the individual has to carry a sand trap, a little bit of a hill, and when they land on the green, they're going to be landing relatively close to the hole. And that means they can't afford to have the ball roll too far. So the most common times you would use a pitch is when you're pitching over trouble, a bunker such as the photo, a sand trap, a hill, maybe even over a bush or a sprinkler head. But the goal is to have the ball land on the green past the trouble area and not roll too far. And this can be accomplished many different ways, and sometimes you can actually use your chipping stroke and just pick a higher loft of club, and that will allow you to get the same idea. But the idea of adding the hinge allows the ball to go higher in the air, and therefore when it lands on the green won't roll as far as a chip is intended to roll. So in this particular drawing, I'd like you to pay attention to the clock on the left-hand side. There are 3 clocks, one with the hands at the 7:30 position, one with the hands at the 9 o'clock position, and one with the hands at the 10:30 position. And that basically is referring to where your hands are as you're swinging back, and you don't go much further than that. So you would go 7:30 to finish, 9 o'clock to finish, and 10:30 to finish. The idea behind that is to create consistency in your length of your swing, because the length of the swing will also determine distance the ball goes, along with obviously the loft of the club. Okay, so needless to say, one of the goals for learning how to pitch is the being able to control your distances that your swing and the ball goes. Because when you're playing golf, it's important to know if you're 50 yards from the green, what club to pick and what swing to use. If you're 75 yards from the green, what club do you pick and what swing do you use? And if you're only 20 yards from the green, what club do you use and what swing do you use? So say, for example, if you look at this diagram, you'll see that the sand wedge, if you take it back from 9 o'clock to finish, is only going to go 64 yards, give or take, for this individual. If you take your pitching wedge and you go 9 o'clock to finish, it's going to go 75 yards. And those are the critical things you need to learn to do, and that's where practice is very, very important. Okay, so you have an idea that club selection is important, the length of your backswing is important, but also want to pay attention to your stance. Your stance, again, is still very narrow, slightly open, which means your target foot is back of your back foot, hips slightly pointing to the target. Weight normally stays on your target side throughout the swing until you have a distance where you require weight shift. And those are the key things that you need to remember for short game. So one of the first drills I would have my student do is setting up a towel on the green where I want the person to picture that as the target where they want the ball to land, and then I'd start about 20 yards away from the green. I get them to start with the sand wedge first and figure out what swing they would need to create in order to get the ball to land on the towel on the green. Then I would change it, have them change the different clubs and see what differences they need to make in their swing to get the same result. So they start with the sand wedge, then they move to the pitching wedge, and if they have a lob wedge, they'll even try a lob wedge. And those are important because what the person needs to do is learn to see the length of the swing will determine the carry, The club selection is going to determine the result of how high the ball goes and subsequently how far the ball will roll when it's on the green. And those are the critical things: carry versus roll. Okay, so what I would do is continue this drill moving back from the green. 30 yards, 35 yards, 40 yards, 45, onwards, even if you have the facility, up to 100 yards from the green. It is important in the game of golf to know what club you want to choose and what swing you want to make to go a certain distance. That's what short game is all about, learning how far the ball will go with a certain swing, and therefore makes your life a lot easier when you're playing. If you're 65 yards from the green and you have a bunker in front of you, what club will you choose and what swing will you make on the shot? Consistency. That's what it's all about, consistency. Having confidence when you're on the green or near the green to know that one of the things when you watch the pros play, you will notice that that they don't seem to worry. They automatically pick a spot where they want to land. They pick the club that will allow them to land there and roll to the hole. And that's really what you're trying to do. Pick your landing spot and pick the club that will create the result.